Hello and welcome in this new video where we will create the material for our ropes. Okay, so this is where we stopped last time, basically when we created the lower ropes. And basically when it comes to creating materials, this stuff doesn't happen in the geometry node editor, but we're going to learn how we can apply material inside geometry nodes. But for now, we need to create the shader or the material for the rope. So we're gonna do all of that procedurally. So let's just jump right into it. First things first, I'm going to change from my geometry node editor to the shader editor because that's where we do the shading stuff. And basically we're going to add a couple of material to this object. So we can probably choose a material. Basically, if you have already existing materials, you can choose them from here, or you will need to click on this new to create a new material. And let's call this, for example, rope. Hit N to hide the sidebar, and basically if I just zoom out a little bit, this is my principal BSDF. It is the main node that we're going to use when it comes to shading. Also, I guess it will be kind of helpful to jump to the render view so that we can see the final result. And right now it is about time to start shading. And here's the first thing. Right now, if I just change, for example, the color, you will notice that nothing is happening even though I'm changing the color of this object. I mean, if we check this rope and we jump to the material, it already does have the material rope, which is this one right here. But even though I'm changing the color, nothing is happening. This bridge is still white. So why is that? Well, that's because we didn't link the materials with the geometry node setup that we build. Now you will understand what I mean. I'm going to get back to my geometry node editor, and I'm just going to hit Control Space Bar, and let's just zoom out. This is our entire node tree. And for example, let's think of the ropes. Basically, let's say the main ropes. I'm going to create a material for the main ropes. There is a really handy node called material. It is this one, set material. I'm not gonna link it for now, but hear me out. Basically, this node will allow me to take a certain geometry. If I just put it right now, right here, it will take the geometry and it will apply one of the materials to it. And if I just click right here, you will have all of your different materials. So in our case, if we want to color, let's say the main ropes, I'm going to add the set material node right here and apply, for example, the material rope, and that material right now will be applied to the main rope elements. If I hit Control Space Bar, you will notice that the main ropes are now colored with that weird color. You see? It is pretty simple. And this is basically how you can link your materials inside of your geometry node editor. We're going to do that multiple times, so don't feel worried that you won't understand it. It will make more sense once we create other materials. So right now it is about time to jump back to the shader editor after we linked everything inside of the geometry node editor, and let's create our procedural material. I'm just going to zoom on one of these ropes just so that I will have a clear view on it, and let's start shading. We're going to do everything procedurally as I mentioned. So how will a rope look like? Well, the best way is to study references if you want, but in my case, I'm going to do something pretty simple. I want this rope to have basically different stripes, let's say. Some stripes, they will be basically brown, and some other parts or other section, they will be dark brown, and I feel like this will give me the effect I'm looking for. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's add a node called mix, which is this one called mix RGB, which is, as the name says, it will mix two colors. I'm going to take the color and plug it to the base color, but I need right now to pick two colors that I want to mix. So in my case, for the first color, and also guys, I don't want to waste time basically trying to find the perfect color. I'm just going to hex and I'm going to hit Control V to paste the exact same color I did before. So please, just use this color if you want, 49372B. I'm just doing that for the sake of not basically wasting your time trying to find the perfect color. So this color works for me, so if you want to change it, just change it. It is not a big deal. And hit enter. So this will be our first color. And for the second color, I'm going to use another color, which is basically its code is 8E703 7, and let's just hit enter, and both of these two colors will be the main driver for the color or for the coloring of our ropes. Now will come probably the trickiest part. What Blender is doing right now is using 50% of the first color and 50% of the second color. It is basically like it is mixing them like they are some sort of watercolor or something. So we're not seeing both of them, we're seeing the result of mixing them. And we need to tell Blender that, hey Blender, we actually want you to use the first color in certain areas, and the second color we want you to use it in different areas. So how can we translate such thing to Blender? Well, it is pretty simple. We need to input some sort of data to the factor. The factor is basically the thing that will tell Blender where to use color number 1 and where to use the color number 2. So let's just go Shift A and let's look for a wave texture, and I'm going to explain what does this node do. If you hit Control Shift and click on this node, you will be able to see it in effect. And this is pretty nice. This is one of the really handy shortcuts that the Node Wrangler add-on will provide. But yeah, this is what the wave texture will look like. It is still not the exact result that we want to do, but it is pretty similar. Here's what we're going to do. For now, I think that the scale is a little bit too much, so I'm going to just put it at 2. So this is more or less better. For the distortion, I can bring this up to 15, say 15. So I add a little bit of distortion to these ropes, or actually to the wave texture. And I'm going to leave the rest of the settings the way they are. And as you can see, basically this map is a black and white map. So what will happen is that Blender in the black areas will use the color number 1, and in the white areas, it will use color number 2. So let's take the color, or even the factor, to be honest, it doesn't matter. Let's plug the factor to the factor, and let's get back to my principal BSDF, Control Shift and click on it to see it, and this is what you will get. Basically, Blender right now is mixing both of these two colors together based on the map that we use, which is this wave texture. And actually, if you focus right here, you will see that there is a darker color right here, and the bright brown is used right here, which is basically how this wave texture will look like when we saw it. Alright, so now there is a small issue that we need to address, which is that yes, this rope material get applied to this and to these, but it didn't get applied to the vertical rope. So we need to also apply that material to the vertical ropes. So let's jump back to my geometry node editor, and let's just zoom out and maybe hit Control Spacebar to maximize this editor and see what's happening right now. So we also need to color the vertical ropes. So we need to create another material, set material, this node right here, and let's just, we can either put it right here basically after the group of the vertical ropes, that's an approach, or we can probably just put it right here close to the join geometry, so at least we know that all of our set material nodes are at the end of the node tree. So this is more of just organizing everything. So let's just put it right here. I'm sure that this link is basically the link connected to the vertical ropes, and let's do this and maybe also do this just so that everything will look a little bit cleaner. And from here, I'm going to choose the material, rope, Control Spacebar to zoom back, or actually to get back to our usual view. And this is what we will get. We basically colored also the vertical ropes with the exact same color. And as you can see, these are basically our vertical ropes. And actually you can see from here, the wave texture and how it does look like. It more or less, it kind of do actually look like it is a rope. And this is actually a pretty sick. And right now, maybe we can start playing a little bit more with the material, the rope material. So let's just jump back to my shader editor and let's get back to our different nodes, which are right here. And let's play a little bit, or let's develop even more this shader, this rope material. The first thing I'm going to do is basically to add some sort of a map to the roughness. I want to play a little bit with the roughness. So to do this, here's what I will do. I'm going to add a noise texture, Control Shift and click on it to see how it will look like. It is basically a black and white texture, but because we're seeing these small ropes, it is not that visible, but it's not a big deal. Control Shift on the principal BSDF to see it. And let's take the factor and plug it to the roughness. Nothing much is happening yet, because let's first of all add a texture coordinate to this noise texture. So go Shift A and let's look for texture coordinate. Let's put it here, and just take the object and plug it to vector. The effect is not that visible yet because we need to add a little bit of contrast to this noise texture. So in order to do that, we can either use the color ramp or we can use the map range node. Now guys, I do know I'm probably going a little bit fast over these stuff, but this course at the end of the day is more about geometry nodes more than actually the shading nodes. So that's why I'm not gonna explain everything in detail, but believe me, I'm doing my best. So for this map range, basically it acts like the usual color ramp inside of Blender, but it is just different setup, let's say. So for the from minimum, let's just bring it a little bit up. For example, let's say 0.3, and actually just by sliding this, you will be able to see the effect taking place. So let's say something like 0.3. From max, let's maybe lower this a little bit. Let's say 0.8, 0.7. Let's keep it at 0.6. The minimum, let's bring it a little bit up. Let's say something like 0.4. And for this one, let's lower it a little bit to something like 0.8. And I feel like this is not bad. Maybe we can play a little bit with this noise texture. So let's bring the scale up to something like 20. That's good. And as you can probably see right now, if I select all of these nodes and hit M to mute certain nodes or to disable them, you will see what will happen. If I hit M, this is the result before, and this is the result after. This is the result before, and this is the result after. Basically, this noise texture is creating this really nice texture that is on the ropes, which just will kind of make them feel a little bit more realistic, let's say. All right, so maybe also we can add some bump to our ropes. So to do that, I'm going to use this wave texture again, basically by taking the factor and plugging it to the normal. But here's a small issue. If you focus right here, the factor is a gray socket, which means it will output black and white data, zeros and ones, black or white. But the normal socket is actually purple, which means that it needs to take vector data. So we need to convert the data coming out of here, which is basically black and white data, zeros and ones, to values that actually the normal socket can accept right here. So what is the node that will allow us to do such thing? It is a node called bump. I'm going to put it right here just for now. And as you can see, this bump node will take the height data, which is black and white, it is gray, and will turn it into actual normals. So let's cut this link by hitting Control with the right mouse button. Let's take the factor and plug it to the height. This node will convert it to normal data, which later we can plug to the normal. Let's lower the strength a little bit to something like 0.5. And this more or less is at least adding some bumps to our ropes, especially if you focus right here. It is adding this effect like actually these are actual ropes, and it is like distorting them and shaping them in a cool way. So I kind of like this effect. And just to clean everything a little bit more, let's hit Shift with the right mouse button to create a rerouting node. And let's just put it somewhere right here. I mean, this node is not so elaborate and it is not that complicated, so it will be easy to deal with. And yeah, this is basically our ropes material. It is right now ready, and we learned in this video how to basically apply different materials to different objects inside the geometry node. And in the next video, we are going to basically create the material of the woods. It is going to be super simple, and of course the concrete material. But for now, that's it. So yeah, I will see you in the next video, everyone.